Oh, well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing okay. We're going to continue our series looking through the book of Matthew, and we're going to arrive at the Sermon on the Mount, and we're going to zoom in on the Beatitudes. I'm just going to take the first one today. And when I was reading the Beatitudes, it really just hit me that they don't make a lot of sense in the modern world with the modern way of thinking about life. I remember when Neil preached on the Beatitudes, he described it as the upside down teaching of Jesus. For it really is counterintuitive to the way the world thinks. It's the opposite of how we're supposed to act in the 21st century. For the world teaches that we should be self-reliant, that we should make our own choices and manage our own lives. In other words, we're the boss, we're in charge. Someone once said that self-reliance is the only road to true freedom. And I think a lot of people think that if they're self-reliant, they're going to be okay. They can sort themselves out. But that is in such contrast to what Jesus teaches in verse 3 of chapter 5. He says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So what does Jesus mean here when he says, "Blessed are the poor of spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven"? Well, the poor in spirit in this context recognize that they have no spiritual assets, that they are spiritually bankrupt. It's a recognition that we need to be completely dependent on God and not trust in our own strength. It's a recognition that we are sinful and rebellious and utterly without any moral virtues without God. And before him, we have no leg to stand on. We've got nothing to commend us to God. It's recognizing who we are and who God is, and recognizing that we need to trust completely in him. You know, our little boy Judah is 3 months old now, and he can do nothing on his own without his parents. He's completely dependent on us for nappy changes, for food, for changing his clothes. He's completely dependent on us. And that's how we need to be with God. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 3, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." And I was thinking about a child here, and a child is completely dependent on their parents for all things. That's what it means to be poor of spirit, to be completely dependent on him through the good times and the bad times. I don't know about you, but sometimes I find I cling to him more when times are bad, when perhaps I'm going through illness or whatever the problems may be, and I sometimes forget to cling to him in the good times. But he wants us to cling to him at all times, good and bad. Someone once described Christianity as a crutch or a walking stick, something that weak people use to cling to get them through life. I don't think that illustration goes far enough. For Christianity is far more than just a crutch. Christianity is an intensive care unit. For when someone is in intensive care, they are completely reliant on the machines around them to keep them alive. So Christianity isn't just a crutch. It's that intensive care unit. We've got to trust in God completely. It's not just a walking stick. And what I find so encouraging about this beatitude is that Jesus doesn't want us to start at the top. We don't just start the Christian walk with incredible levels of holiness. Instead, we start with humility in clinging to the feet of Jesus and acknowledging that we have no spiritual assets and that we are completely dependent on him. Charles Spurgeon once wrote that this beatitude is first because this is where we start with God. A ladder, if it is to be of any use, must have its first step near the ground. Otherwise, feeble climbers will never be able to mount. It would have been a grievous discouragement to struggling faith if the first blessing had been given to the pure in heart. To that excellence the young believer makes no claim, while to poverty of spirit he can reach without going beyond his line. So blessed are the poor in spirit, Blessed are those who realize that they are completely dependent on God. Blessed are those who are not self-reliant, but are entirely reliant on God, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What an essential principle for those walking the Christian life. And I pray that we would not trust in our own strength, but that we would lean entirely on God for everything that we need. Take care. God bless.